morning and welcome to Village in Motion. I'm Marcia Boyles and I'm delighted to begin this segment of Village in Motion with our Director of Finance, Cody Burns. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sure you have things you would like to tell us this morning. Cody, what is going on in finance?
The biggest thing right now is we do have a forum tomorrow, the Move Out and Pass Away Forum in the Hunters Crossing Conference Center from 12 to 1:30 tomorrow, which is a really great forum, and I really encourage not only residents but them to invite their family members as well, because the information that we're giving is what happens when you move out or when the time comes and you pass away. What happens after all of that?
Yes.
And what are the contract stipulations? What is the process? What are the things that need to be done depending upon the contract type that you have and the documents that you have for your refund and stuff like that? And it's really important, I think, more for the resident family members, because 9 times out of 10 they're the ones dealing with closing out the apartment and that process at the end. And we find a lot of times that the residents are very knowledgeable about their contracts and what stipulations there are, but the family members aren't so knowledgeable.
No.
So when they come to our office, when that time comes, it's another education process again. And if they can get that information now, so that when that time comes, 6 months down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, they're able to manage the situation, and it can be as smooth of a process as possible.
And I think it's complicated by the fact that that trusts are required rather than just straight wills in terms of probate. It's a very complicated situation often.
Exactly.
I'm gathering.
And we go through the differences of that in the forum. We do have question and answers too, so if there's things, because we have multiple contract types here, we kind of generalize a little bit.
We
but
do
then,
have multiple contract types?
So there's a 100% contract and a 90% contract.
Okay.
And some of the stipulations between those contracts are a little bit different.
Oh, they
For the
are.
most part, they're the same, but there are minor differences, and we're able to, through the question and answer part of that, dive into that. We also stay after a little bit and answer any questions on a specific level, because we don't want to take up the time talking about your specific contract when we're talking to a room of 100 to 200 people.
Are there any places open still for that forum? Can people still come?
Yes, so there are still spots open. We have quite a few spots open actually, and if you're interested in coming, please stop by the finance office and just RSVP, fill out a form, and we'll get you on the list. There'll be light refreshments, cookies, water, stuff like that. So it is during the lunchtime, we know, but it's the only time we can get the conference center for that time. But it's a really rich forum, and the information provided really is great for residents and their family members to understand, especially if you've been here quite a while and you don't really remember what you signed when you first moved in here. So it's a good refresher course. We do get a lot of repeats, but they learn something new every time they come. So
well, it's. I think all of us who have been to those forums are astonished at the amount of information that you provide. It really is a fairly complex kind of situation.
It is very complex, and we try to lay it out as easily and as simple as possible. But there are some complexities to it, and it's good to get that out in the open.
Well, I think one of the things that residents certainly have noticed is occasionally families have difficulty getting access to the apartment or the goods within the apartment after someone passes here.
And that's a great point. And we do have a new process that we introduced at the end of last year with a form that allows for, if you don't have a trust, because if you have a trust, the executor or trustee of that trust can have
immediate
legal
access.
If you don't have a trust and only have a will, you have to go through probate through the court system, and as we know, the courts can either be really quick or they can be rather tedious and not quick. So we do have a new form that you talk about, that you can designate legal representatives solely for access to the entrance of the apartment when that time comes.
Now, Cody, where is that form?
So we have that form in the finance office. We also will have copies of that form in the packets that we hand out at the forum.
And it's on file then in your office?
It's on file, and when that time comes, security comes in, looks at the file, and says, you have access to the apartment, you can go in.
All right. All right. That's good. That's terrifically important information. All
Yeah,
right.
and we really heard the feedback from the residents about the struggles with the court system and
Yes.
not wanting to spend the money
Particularly
on
when
a
people,
trust.
when your relatives are from out of town.
Sure, sure.
They may have to come back and forth.
Yep, and it's even if you have trustees and stuff like that, we always advise you to talk to your legal counsel to make sure that when you fill out the form that it's in your best interest to fill out that form and designate certain individuals. But you can also, if you have a trust, fill out the form if your trustee lives out of state and you have someone here close to home that you want to designate. You can add them through this form as well.
Into that list of...
So that as soon as that time comes, someone close can get down here and at least start the process.
All right. Well, that's extremely valuable. And thank you for saying it on air in
Sure.
addition to at the forum.
Sure, of course.
Now, Cody, you have been out for several weeks,
Yes.
I know, and I am dying to know, and I'm sure our listeners are too, what the reason for that is, since it's such a good reason.
Well, if you'll notice, I have some new bling on my finger here.
I noticed that.
So I actually got married within the last couple weeks, and so I was out getting married to my beautiful new wife Shannon, and spending time in Mexico with her on our honeymoon.
Well, I think that's splendid. So Monday was your first day back.
Monday was my first day back. I left just before Memorial Day weekend and came back on Monday. So I was out about 2 weeks and still getting acclimated and everything, but it was a nice break from the day-to-day, and it helped clear my mind a little bit. So I've been able to come back full force and hit the ground running.
Well, I think that's a terrific reason. Now, you also said that you were going to be moving down here to Virginia from Maryland.
Yes, so as a lot of our listeners and residents know, I'm commuting from Maryland about an hour and a half-ish every day.
Does it take you that long?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So within the next month or so, I'll be moving down here to be closer to Green Spring. I definitely plan on staying at Green Spring for quite some time. So now that I'm married and things are falling in line, my wife and I decided that moving to Virginia was the best choice for us to be closer. It'll definitely help. I look forward to being home more, spending more time with Shannon, and in the future when we decide to have kids, being able to be home. It's very difficult right now getting home so late and leaving so early.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to getting a couple hours of my life back every day. To spend time with Shannon and my dog Yuma. So
Your dog Yuma. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's splendid. And you said your wife was also going to be taking a new job down here.
Yes.
In the area.
Yeah, it worked out very well. She is leaving her old job and found a new opportunity down here pretty quickly with some friends, some ex-coworkers that she used to work with who started their own business, and so she's joining their team. And we'll be able to work down here in the area, and so it worked out perfectly. So she won't have to have that long commute as well.
Well, I think that's terrific,
Yes.
and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is great. What else is going on in finance that we could benefit from hearing about?
So we just finished up our close for May. We had a very good month. I haven't gotten into the specifics yet of what departments and where some of the variances are because we just closed out yesterday evening. But overall for Green Spring, we had a good month, which, as we all know, we were struggling a little bit in the first part of the year, so we're starting to get some of that back. And we're looking at areas where we can maintain that so that it's sustainable. Because that's the big thing that I look for when I look at financials and talk with the other departments is, even if we had a good month, can we do it again?
Sure.
Because sometimes it's an anomaly, sometimes it's we did one thing right and it just happened to work out. So I ask the questions, what can we do? Is it sustainable? How will it impact the residents? How will it impact the operations and the staff? Because that's very important, balancing that mission and margin. Yes, we want to hit our budget, but we also have that mission that we need to accomplish
Cody,
as well.
mostly is the good month or bad month? Is it mostly dependent on occupancy?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's dependent upon spend. There's a lot of occupancy hits the top line, which is the revenue. the revenue piece. So if we have strong occupancy, our revenue is there. And we have had issues a little bit with the ramp up in Garden Ridge of getting to that occupancy that we had planned. However, there's a lot of the middle of the page stuff too with the expenses that
All right, so
can
unexpected,
go wrong too.
unexpected expenses.
So
in some
we've
cases.
experienced both of those at different times throughout the year, and I think in May we had a very good month on both sides. Some of the departments that have been struggling have come back and have been implementing their action plans to get back to plan and have now started to chip away at their variance. So I'm very excited to see where the next few months lead in working with those departments to eat away at the rest of the variance that we have experienced this year.
One of the things that I think often residents talk about is what are the size of the reserves at this point?
So right now our reserves are about where they've been all year, so between 180, 190. It goes up and down
They're
in
still
between there right now.
that high.
Yeah, and the reason for that is our repositioning efforts haven't really started yet. Town center and stuff like
Right,
that,
right.
we're starting to put shovels in the ground and so forth, but we don't start getting invoices for those
Okay.
for that work until a few months down the road. So once we see
what
that,
kind of expenditures are you expecting for?
so we're expecting, the town center project's a fairly large project. It's consistent
Oh,
of
yes.
redoing basically all of town center, plus adding that parking deck across the street in that lot, and the capital expenditures it'll be spread out over the next couple years. I mean, it's a 2 to 3 year project. And we have sufficient cash flows to cover that. We might see a little dip in the reserves here and there when we have to pay in invoices, but from what I've seen with our appreciation and entrance deposits, we're able to bounce back and maintain that level of reserve. So we're really putting cash out and then bringing cash right back in through those entrance deposit appreciations.
So it's not going to really affect the bottom line of the reserves particularly.
I don't think so. I mean, we might see it go up and down a little bit,
Right.
but I think on
But
average it's going to
That
maintain.
seems like a huge amount of reserves.
It is, but it's very good to have. And a lot of residents, talk about, well, what are you doing sitting on all this money?
Right.
And it's hard to explain why, but if Green Spring were to experience a financial crisis, just like the country can experience a financial crisis, we have reserves to where we can continue operating for over 800 days without bringing in another penny.
I can believe
Right.
that.
So if something were to happen and we can't bring in any more money, we can still operate for over 2 years and provide the services. And normally within 2 years, you can get back up and running. So it's a great safety net. I also point out that, when you move out, your entrance deposit can be paid back to you.
Well, this is true.
Because we have the money in the bank to pay it back.
There's
so
no question about
there's
that.
no question about that. So, it's great to have that. We have a great credit rating.
Yes, I know.
And
that helps,
We're
I know.
one of 2 at the rating of CCRCs at the AA- rating in the country. That's the
Is
highest
that right?
rating for
I
CCRCs.
did not know that.
So we're very financially strong on that front, and we look to maintain that.
Well, absolutely. I didn't realize that we were one of 2.
Yes.
That speaks very well, I think, for the financial status. Cody, this has been extremely helpful today. Again, congratulations.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have you back.